While our civilization crumbles from the inside, it can be fun to think of what a perfect society would look like. The Republic, a timeless book from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, aims to describe the organization, structure, and principles that are necessary for a just state. So over the course of this video, I'm going to break down what Plato hypothesized would be required to build the perfect society, including his concepts of philosopher kings, guardians, what a citizen's responsibilities are, his critique of democracy, the need for education, his famous allegory of the cave, how to avoid corruption, and the nature of goodness and justice. However, if before we dive in, you wouldn't mind helping me out in the YouTube algorithm and subscribing to my channel and hitting a thumbs up on this video,
that would be great.
In Plato's ideal society, there are three classes: the philosopher kings, who you can think of as the ruling class, the guardians, who are essentially philosophical warriors, and then the common citizens and laborers. So let's take a look at what would be expected of each of these classes as proposed by Plato. Considering the leader of history's most powerful nation is yet again going to either be a nursing home escapee or nursing home bully, both options are about as far away from what Plato described as the ideal ruler in the Republic as you can get. Plato argues that wise and virtuous leaders, who he called philosopher kings, should be in charge of the government. These philosopher kings must be wise, have a deep understanding of philosophy, be trained in civil discourse, and exhibit moral virtue, courage, and temperance in their private lives. Plato presents philosopher kings as the antidote to tyrants, who seek personal gain and wield power for self-interest. Philosopher kings should be raised from birth to pursue wisdom and virtue through extensive education in the principles of justice and reason, in order to mitigate the potential for corruption. Plato places a lot of importance on ethical leadership in the pursuit of wisdom, which he believes leaders must possess in order to effectively govern a just society. He also believed that in order to avoid corruption, that philosopher kings would be required to not have any personal property. Plato's philosopher kings are the exact opposite of the leaders we have today, who almost entirely use their role as leader to enhance their own power and serve the interests of their inner circle. Plato introduces the concept of guardians in the Republic, which to him is a crucial element in the state. You could think of these guardians as philosopher warriors who are in charge of maintaining justice and protecting the state from external threats. They are to be taken from a very young age and subjected to rigorous education in order to shape their moral development and character. The education is supposed to instill virtues such as courage, wisdom, and moderation, as well as making them proficient in physical training, music, mathematics, and philosophy. The intention is to mold them into virtuous individuals who will serve the citizens and state selflessly, essentially becoming custodians of justice within the ideal state, or in other words, a bunch of Greek Batmans. However, even as he warns throughout the book, his idea for a class of guardians is plagued by the potential risks of centralized power. While describing the perfect society in the Republic, Plato grapples with the complex relationship between equality and social hierarchy. He questions whether individuals should be treated as equals or if social roles and hierarchy are necessary for a just society. He acknowledges equality in the sense that he believes every citizen should have an equal education, no matter their social background, as he believed this would promote much needed competence. However, while Plato values equality, he also saw benefits of social roles and specialization within a state, arguing that individuals have natural abilities which make them more suited for specific tasks or occupations. Although, despite thinking social roles were necessary, Plato saw many benefits in a society built upon meritocracy, where individuals who exhibit exceptional talents and virtues should be able to ascend the social hierarchy, even if they were not born into those positions. Plato also believed it was necessary for citizens to be wise, virtuous, and competent in order to ensure the overall well-being and harmony of the state. His views on what it means to be a citizen reminded me of the famous JFK quote,
"Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country."
Now that we've outlined the three different classes in Plato's ideal society, let's take a look at some of the values which he proposes those classes should adhere to. In the Republic, Plato does not look favorably upon democracies. He raises concerns about the masses becoming uniformed in thought, which leads to mob rule, where the majority, which may include large amounts of individuals lacking knowledge, end up tyrannizing the minority. He also explains how instability and inconsistency is inherent in democratic systems, saying that as individual interests and popular sentiments shift, it will cause frequent changes of policies and leaders, leading to a lack of effective governance. Plato doesn't just think democracies are inefficient, though. He warns that charismatic leaders are able to make the masses emotional and then exploit their emotion for their own personal gain. Seeing as emotions drive their decisions, the masses are able to be manipulated into electing leaders who lack the necessary virtues and qualifications. This also leaves the door open to powerful people in society being able to elect puppet leaders to do their bidding for them. People have been arguing for centuries about what makes someone or something good. In the Republic, Plato delves into the nature of goodness and describes how it is the connection between truth, knowledge, and virtue. He further states that the ultimate purpose of human life is to strive to become the highest form of good, or in other words, someone who doesn't lie, has a passion for learning, and is moral and virtuous in their actions. He argues that the highest good transcends opinions and desires, while suggesting that aligning one's life with the pursuit of the good leads to a state of well-being that arises from living in accordance with eternal truths. Plato also points out that in his ideal state, the rulers, or in his words, philosopher kings, would embody the highest form of good. Possessing wisdom, knowledge, and virtue, this would enable them to govern with justice and lead citizens toward the realization of the good life, which to Plato is characterized as a life striving for justice, virtue, and harmony. So if you want to live a good life, Plato would urge you to tell the truth, pick up a book, and control your desires and impulses. While contemplating the perfect society, Plato repeatedly analyzed what the nature and definition of justice is, and what it means for both individuals and society to be just. He stated that for an individual to be just, they must be able to achieve inner balance, where they can control their negative emotions like fear, anger, jealousy, and so on, and be guided by reason, wisdom, courage, and temperance instead. In terms of society, Plato thought justice manifested through a harmonious organization of the three classes: philosopher kings, aka rulers, guardians, aka warriors, and producers, or in other words, workers. Justice would mean that each class performs its designated role without encroaching on the others. Plato emphasized that the pursuit and practice of justice is necessary for the flourishing of both the individual and society at large. Plato's idea of justice would require those in the working class not to be jealous or resentful towards the ruling class, and the ruling class not to look down upon those in the working class. In his eyes, justice means embodying fairness and adhering to the principles of the good in order to promote harmony. Now that we've covered some of the basic values in Plato's society, let's take a look at how he assumes we should instill those values into citizens. Throughout the Republic, Plato emphasizes the importance of education in shaping both individuals and society. Plato advocates for a well-rounded education that focuses on mathematics, philosophy, music, and civil discourse, or in other words, the art of resolving disagreements. He thought education should instill more than just basic skills or factual information, that the purpose of education is to have individuals attain self-awareness and self-discipline, which will ensure that citizens are able to positively contribute to society. Plato also places a great deal of significance on mathematics, believing it enhances logical reasoning, develops critical thinking skills, and provides a framework for understanding abstract concepts and patterns. He also thought that school should teach individuals to discern truth from falsehood, overcome biases, and be able to engage in well-tempered debates. A true education, Plato argues, would foster intellectual humility and open-mindedness, not willful obedience to authority like our current public school system. The most famous theme from Plato's The Republic is his allegory of the cave, which provides profound insights into human perception, the pursuit of knowledge, and the nature of reality. Plato describes a group of prisoners confined within a dark cave since birth, chained to a wall with their back to the exit and forced to look at the opposite wall of the cave. They perceived the world as shadows of objects from outside of the cave being put onto the wall across from them, considering these shadows as the only reality. The cave is supposed to symbolize the world of sensory perception, and the shadows are the misconceptions that dominate human perception. Plato then asks you to consider a prisoner being liberated and ascending towards the entrance of the cave. As the prisoner is exposed to the sun, the sudden increase in light would quickly blind them. This process represents someone having the overwhelming experience of learning that there is more to the world than their senses have made them believe after being exposed to true knowledge and enlightenment, which the sun is supposed to represent. After realizing the world isn't as it seems, Plato argues it's the duty of the person to return to the cave and free the other prisoners from their illusions. However, Plato warns that upon doing so, they are likely to face resistance and disbelief from those that are still confined, as they have never contemplated a reality other than the shadows on the wall. The allegory represents the power of knowledge and the importance of seeking truth beyond the shadows of illusion, which will ultimately lead to a deeper understanding of the nature of reality and our place within it. While outlining the ideal society in the Republic, Plato was certain to address the corrupting influences of power. He confronts how rulers struggle to maintain a good character while wielding authority, and also explores the qualities and virtues required to resist corruption. Plato argues that being able to control one's desires is fundamental in guarding against corruption. He emphasizes the importance of electing leaders who excel in self-discipline and restricting desires. Plato also notes that true leadership demands a commitment to the common good, and rulers must possess the wisdom and moral fortitude to prioritize the welfare of the citizens. He also advocates for a system of checks and balances, suggesting that rulers should be held accountable by the guardians of the state while establishing mechanisms that limit the concentration of power and ensure accountability. Plato also notes that true transparency and honesty is necessary to have a well-functioning ruling class. With all that said, I'd love to hear what you think. What qualities would make up the perfect state? Do you know of anyone who has laid out a better idea of the ideal state than Plato? Let me know in the comments below, and also don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up to date with new videos, and we'll catch you on the next one.